Alright guys, I realized I didn't film an intro for this, so I'm going to film it now after the fact. But let's take a look here. You'll see that primarily a lot of this is done. The enclosure isn't in, but this video is going to cover a couple of things I didn't cover in the Audi video. Primarily sound treatment on the floor. When I did sound treatment in the Audi, I did not cover mass-loaded vinyl application, and I'm going to show that here now. And something I didn't in the Audi that I couldn't do here was put Second Skin's Megazorb above the headliner. Since I have 3/4 inch ply above the headliner here to reinforce it for SPL purposes, I couldn't do sound treatment there, so I needed to apply sound treatment below the headliner. Now the product I'm using is not an automotive product, and I'll cover that later in the video. You'll see that. So just keep in mind that what I'm doing is not conventional, so I wouldn't suggest you guys do it. Other things I've done under the hood, I've got aftermarket headlights, and I cleaned up all the wiring for that. Ultra cap. This Ultra cap, if you guys don't know anything about them, they're a couple $100 from Big Jeff. You can get these guys, and they will give you 375 farads of capacitance, and from Bluetooth you can jump start your vehicle even if your battery is dead. So this is a great dude to have. Power starts over here with my JS alternators, 320 amp alternator. I've got nice little turnbuckle here to adjust belt tension. 0 gauge power and ground ran over here. Now I've got 0 gauge ground going to the block. This one goes to the alternator, and this one runs to the back of the vehicle. And if we go to the back of the vehicle, I'll show you where it comes out. So this is actually, I'll put this bolt here, this is a body ground, and it's also going to be, when I drop my lug on there and connect it to my lithium that will be living here, that will also serve as the main negative for the lithium connection to the alternator and the cap up front. So it's pulling double duty. But for now, let's get into mass-loaded vinyl application and how I'm going about that, and then we'll move on. And what I'm doing now, I laid down the 2-pound variety of Second Skin's luxury liner on the floor pan, all along the floor pan of the vehicle, all the large flat spots. And this stuff is pretty stiff. What I'm doing now is going over seams, like from this point to from the rear floor pan to the front floor pan, coming up over the seat risers, trans tunnel where the rear cargo area drops down to the rear floor pan. I'm going over it with a much more pliable 1-pound flavor of luxury liner, and this stuff is just simpler, easier overall to work with. And I'm going to show you what it's like working with this 2-pound stuff. I can actually, instead of bothering to cut completely through it, I can just take the knife, score it, and then give it a bend. And once I have it bent, I have a piece here that I can actually lay down and have that transitioning from the floor pan up, say up the transmission tunnel here, something like that. I didn't do that. I'm just going to lay the 1-pound stuff because I'm seaming everything. And so with this, you can also, once you score it and bend it, you can also just go ahead and rip it down the seam. And that is an easy way, if you're trimming and cutting the 2-pound stuff down, it's an easy way to do so. So at this point, I've got my H866 vinyl cement. What I'm going to do to seam all of these is brush my vinyl cement on both pieces. And you don't need a ton of this. You just need to brush it on, let it set up. Basically mean let it get tacky. And then once it tacks up, you just press the 2 pieces together, and you have a nice permanent bond between the 2 pieces of vinyl. And you don't need a ton of this. All you need to do is lay it down let it tack up, and once it's tacked up, then you can go ahead and apply it. So I'm just using scraps for now. Now the instructions will say give it 2 to 5 minutes to tack up. I'm just kind of going by what I see based on using this stuff in the past. I think that is about ready to go. And we'll just press that there. And this is the trick to using scrap, is it doesn't have to be pretty. You can just cut it, get it in place. Now I was telling you guys that the 1 pound cut's much easier than the 2 pound. I'm going to show you that right now. So there's 1 pound cut done. So all I'm doing here is just trying to get some pieces at the trans tunnel so that road noise doesn't bleed through there. I can't do a lot here because I do have to get the carpet center console back in. So that's the reason I'm going with a thinner 1 pound stuff along the trans tunnel. Alright, so at this point I'm just going ahead and getting a little adhesive right here where I'm going to drop down over the riser here from the rear floor pan to the cargo area. This would be under the rear seat for those of you that are familiar with these XBs. But I'm going to go ahead and get my adhesive on, let it tack up. 2 to 5 minutes. This isn't something where if you're shooting, say, upholstery adhesive, you can walk away, go get lunch, come back, press your pieces together. You want to give it 2 to 5 minutes, let it tack up, pretty much dry to the touch, and then you're going to get your pieces and press them together. And you'll notice I only put adhesive here because it tapers after that, and I want to go ahead and work on this one section, see how it's going to want to lay. If you look over here at the corner, once I get this bottom set in place and I try to press that down, I'm going to have a peak there. So what I'm going to do is press that down, look at where my peak is, and I'm just going to cut right there to relieve the stress right there at the peak, and then I can lay these guys down over one another and that will be perfectly fine. Just like that. So that piece is ready to be wrapped nice and tight. I just need to get adhesive on it. Alright, so at this point I am getting my last 2 pieces of mass loaded vinyl on the floor for this. All I need to do is this side of the trans tunnel. I guess it's not really a trans tunnel because it is a front wheel drive vehicle, but we do have this tunnel that runs front to back, and I'm getting a little adhesive on here so I can get this taken care of, and then we will be done with mass loaded vinyl on this vehicle. We'll move on to getting the carpet back in place. I need to clean the carpet, get it back in place, and then I can actually start the build process for this. And the build is actually going to be pretty simple because it's just a baffle. So I just need to make a long convoluted baffle to separate front wave from back wave in this vehicle. So while it is mechanically simple in operation, just front wave, back wave isolation, it's going to be a bit of an involved process to actually build it. So it's I got to get carpet back in, get seats in, and with the seats in, I can actually start laying out angles and dimensions on stuff. I don't have an actual build plan as far as, you know, typically when you build an enclosure, you know what your volume is going to be. You know that you're going to have, you know, this for width, this for length. Your internal volume is going to be this, and the enclosure is going to be tuned to whatever you tune the enclosure to. With this, the vehicle is going to tell me what I need to build. I don't have to you know, do math and solve for anything. It's simply going to be, the vehicle tells me the dimension of each piece I build. So a lot of times there may be things I measure, there'll be things that I won't even have to measure. I'll just put something in place and the vehicle says this is what it needs to be, and just based on that, that's where the cut will happen. So it's a bit different from building an actual enclosure. All right, so mass loaded vinyl is done, and now it's time to move on to the next step. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the mass loaded vinyl in here. Everything is wrapped front to back. We're taken care of. I'm not doing a piece here because that's where the dead pedal is, and there's actually factory foam insulation there. It's like hard foam for the dead pedal. So that is 2-pound mass loaded vinyl from here to here. I've got 1 pound coming down from this rear seat cargo area down to the floor pan. 2 pound, 1 pound on each side of this tunnel, 1 pound coming up over the seat riser, and 2 pound on the floor. So that is mass loaded vinyl done. All right guys, update time. As you can see, I've made progress here. I've got a wood floor in the vehicle, and I didn't shoot video of that process of how I did this because all it was template work, and I was leaning over in the vehicle, and due to head injury, when I lean over in the vehicle, I get overheated, nauseous, and I get all dizzy and wide-eyed, so it just doesn't make for good video. But I spent all of Sunday, that's how long it took me to make that template. And it took so long just because I had to stop and take a bunch of breaks due to dizziness and getting overheated. So real quick, I'm going to show you an easy way to do this. You can use, if you want to buy something, a perfect butt. I guess they do exist. This is a profile scriber from Empower, and there's different diameters here. 3.5, 2 3/4, 1 1/8, and 2 inch. But an easy way to do this, you don't really have to buy anything, is to take a washer and a pencil and just scribe. And so then you take that and you cut. Now it's easiest to do this if you take like this edge so you can constantly move it. You got this straight line right here, so just draw this line on, say, your wood, your surface, whatever. Draw a line there and then keep moving this on that line. Scribe your line here, cut that piece out, stay lined up over here, move it again, and then you will eventually end up with a full template. And that is what I have here. I templated the floor. I've got 2 pieces there, as you can see. This is the largest piece I could get through one of these door openings, whether it's this one or the back here. This was the absolute largest single piece I could get out of a sheet of wood and fit into the vehicle. Now other things I did, I got carpet in, I got USB cables ran for the director and the air ride system. There's remote power ran for the audio system, accessory power for the air ride. 0 gauge power cable is ran, RCAs are made and ran. So all of the electrical side as far as running cabling is done, and it's currently under the floor and accessible with this small panel here. So today's plan is to build this forward section of wall here, try to get the side walls templated and built. And the great thing about this, currently as we sit, this comes back no farther than the rear seat did. If you guys look right over here, you can see where the latch was for the rear seat. I have tons of cargo area left back here, so I can throw equipment in when I go to shows and stuff like that. And a quick reminder, from here up is into the cabin. Everything here and below goes out the back of the vehicle. That's how this is going to work. So This is not this area. Even if I extend this wall back a little bit, this is not a port. This is just a way for the back wave to breathe. So based on surface area, this will be a true infinite baffle. Now the next bit I'm working on is unconventional. When I talked to Eric at Second Skin about what I was doing, he kind of questioned, are you sure you want to do this? This is not an automotive product. So I want to get that out of the way. What I'm using is a commercial product. It is not designed to be in a wet environment. So home and commercial is its intended use, but for what I'm going to use it for here, it should be amazing. So let's take a look at what I've got going on. I am working on the forward section of the headliner here. You guys can see I've got sun visors stripped down. I actually have a complete set of sun visors at the upholstery shop so they can wrap them, stitch them for me. But you guys have seen this, Second Skin's Megazorb, 1/2 inch thick melamine foam. Also comes in thicker varieties, 1 inch and 2 inch. I had 1/2 inch here, so I am stacking it to get what I want. But right here, Cellular is on the bottom side of my headliner. This is sun visor side, this is the bottom of the headliner. So what I'm doing here is adding sound treatment to the bottom side of the headliner. The reason I'm doing that is I added the wood bracing above the headliner. So I don't really have the room to do sound treatment above it as far as sound absorption. So with this, I'm putting, the intent was to put 2 inches of Cellular, which is this guy right here, 2 inch thick layer of Cellular on the bottom side, the cabin side of the headliner, and have that absorb airborne sound so that there's no basically reduce reflections and reverberation in the vehicle, rain from the top of the vehicle, stuff like that. This also will help thermally insulate the vehicle. But I went ahead and made this piece here out of MDF to come across the back, and you can see it comes right to the bottom of the headliner where it tucks in. This area here is where it tucks in to the seals on the vehicle. This is where the B pillar comes in, and you guys see this was a smoker's vehicle, so you can see where cigarette smoke has just really discolored the inside of the vehicle, but that's fine. You can see it over here. That's not a big deal. I don't care about that. But I put that piece of MDF in the back because it's going to play in with what I'm building for the enclosure. And the trick is I got to this point and I was like, you know, I've got a huge gap here. I grabbed another piece and I'm like, that's perfect. That takes up the gap here from this point to this point. I never intended on doing this. It just worked out that way. So at this point, I am going to add another layer of Cellular. And that means that what I've done here with, even though this is 1/2 inch, it's 1, 2, 3, it's 1.5 inches thick. And I know I said this is 2 inches thick. It is, but I've got this kind of mashed in there so it all comes together at that thickness. And now I'm going to be adding another 2 inches of sound absorption material to the inside of the car. And this isn't a concern because I have plenty of space, headroom they call it. I have plenty of space above my head for this to fit. There's a lot of headroom in these vehicles. So that's where I am now. That's where I'm at now. I'm going to go ahead and treat the rest of this with Cellular, and we'll move on. All right, so what I've done is laid down a good coating of Weldwood's contact cement. I'll spray this piece, let it tack up. I'll spray the other piece, let it tack up. I'll get the two in place and then lay it down, and it will be permanently bonded. On the headliner, when I laid down this first layer, I just put down a grid of construction adhesive and mushed this into place so that it was in there. So that's cured. This is permanently stuck to the headliner now, And then this front section where all of the Megazorb is, that's stuck to the headliner. That Megazorb, the peel and stick, is really, really tacky, and it sticks well. So that is stuck to the headliner, and I've actually tested it. It pulls apart if you try to remove it, so it's not going anywhere. At this point, I'm going to go ahead, coat the other side, the other layer, and that will be ready to drop in here, and we'll have 4 inches of Cellular Absorb on the bottom side of the headliner. Now you'll notice I just laid this on what I had just sprayed. The way this weldwood works, you can touch it, it's tacked up already and dry, but when I spray this piece and then I lay it in place, this will stick to the stuff that I've already laid. So weldwood wants to stick to itself. If you spray it, it's not like a super glue or any other adhesive where that it gets all over your hands. It sticks to itself. So I'll spray this stuff, go grab lunch, come back, stick it together. Now you'll notice I sprayed this end piece for the headliner and the back side of this Cellular Absorb, because when I lay these together, I want to push it back and have this rear edge of the Cellular Absorb stuck to the headliner. So that is the next step. This stuff is pretty dry, still a little tacky, and I do have some areas I'm going to get some more adhesive on, but overall I think we're going to be good. I have fasteners and stuff everywhere. So now, grab these guys. That's all I'm doing, is going around making sure everything is pressed in. As you notice, as I press on this, it does compress. So when I wrap this and I come over to my headliner, it's going to blend and taper in just the way I want it to. So get these guys out of the way. Don't need those sun visors. And we will go over this one more time. I can hear my voice change, like the way it sounds. I don't know if it's going to pick up a microphone, but if I stand back here and talk and I come over here and talk, it muffles my voice. It's really weird, just moving 2 feet how it sounds. So in a closed environment in the vehicle, this should be pretty nice, and I think it's going to accomplish what I'm looking for it to do. So turn this guy. You guys should be able to hear that on the microphone, how it changes my voice. So turn this guy upside down. Everything sticks just the way I want it to, and that is one step closer to getting upholstered. Listen to my voice now, and now listen to it. This is really wild, like the sound absorption on this. If you listen to my voice the way I speak now, and then when I can't. This is really weird. If you listen to my voice now, and then as I move this in front of my face, it absorbs everything. Even though I'm in this large open shop environment, the sound absorption on this is great. So that's what I was looking for. Now I need to blend in this section here up to this, do some radiuses on the sides. I've already done this one, and then I can go ahead and finish that, and I can wrap this guy. So this is a kind of a big obstacle on this, is just getting this laid out. I originally planned on 2 layers, not 2 layers, but 2 inches, just this thickness on the roof headliner. And after cutting the end cap for the headliner, I realized I needed more, so we're using more. And in theory, more is better. I'm kind of worried, will I get the vehicle too quiet? Will it creep people out? Because the Audi, this will definitely be quieter than the Audi. And the Audi said that people got in it, said it was too quiet. It was kind of creepy with how quiet it was. This will definitely be quieter. So more sound absorption means quieter inside, and it's going to feel more of a cocoon that you're in. It's going to be more like a studio than a vehicle. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, if you're wondering what I'm using, this is Performance Products high temp trim adhesive for headliners, carpet, and foam. I like using this stuff over the regular weldwood, which is what I would normally use. And the reason I'm using that is because I can reposition the material as I lay it down. So with weldwood, once it's stuck, you're kind of committed to what you end up with. With this, I actually have the ability to reposition some, so I do like using the Performance Product stuff for stuff like this. And you can see this is smoothing out nice, and this suede looks good. So I'm going to work my way from the center out to the edge and just wrap that way, make sure it's pulled tight to the edge the way I want it, and after that I'll clean it and it'll be ready to install in the vehicle. Alright guys, my battery died, so I didn't get to show you complete wrapping of the headliner, but it's just upholstery work. I did get it in. It weighs about 18 pounds. Not quite 18, but it's pretty much on the edge of 18 pounds. So I had people ask how this is held into the vehicle just because of the weight, and I'm going to show you here. Right here, you can see there's an MDF end cap on this, and I have the ply that's up here. I'm going to put brackets in to support the back of it, but as you can tell, it's barely moving. So the way this is held in, the B pillars and the A pillars hold it up, and then here there's this lattice piece that runs along the top of the vehicle, and the headliner actually tucks between that lattice and the door seal, so that holds it up. And then when we get up front, we have, you can hear how my voice changes, we have the rearview mirror and the sun visor clips that retain the sun visor. Those screw up into the metal header and they hold in, and then when I put the sun visors in, they're going to hold it in. The A pillars obviously, but there's a lattice behind here, and the headliner is trapped between the lattice work and this door seal. So yeah, and again, this is what I'm happy about. I'm out of the vehicle. You guys can hear how my voice sounds right now, and then when I get in and I talk, it's just so much quieter. And at this point, I haven't even put my door cards on. I haven't done anything back here as far as adding, say, the enclosure. It's not an enclosure, but this is how quiet it is now. So once I add the door treatment and I get the enclosure, once I get my wall, which isn't a wall, gosh, what do I call this thing? Once I get the infinite baffle build in, it's gonna be pretty quiet, because all of that is also going to be treated. But this video has been long enough. I'm going to end it here, and next time you guys see this, it's going to be final assembly and it'll be playing. So see you later.